Welcome to Finance Empire. But before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt powerful holding a credit card? Like you finally unlocked a new level in life? Only to realize later that something quietly slipped out of your control? Stay with me, because this story might feel a little too real, and by the end, you might see money very differently. So imagine this. It's a bright Saturday morning. You open your mailbox casually, not expecting anything special, and then you see it. A sleek envelope. Clean. Professional. Different. You open it, and there it is. Your very first credit card. For a moment, everything feels different. You hold it between your fingers, turning it slightly, as the light reflects off its glossy surface. The raised numbers, the tiny hologram, your name printed on it. It doesn't feel like just a card. It feels like power. It feels like freedom. You smile without even realizing it. This is it, you think. Now I can finally buy what I want, when I want. And honestly, it doesn't feel wrong, it feels earned. Later that day, you walk into your favourite cafe, nothing fancy, just your usual place. You order your favourite coffee, and when it's time to pay, you pause for a second. Cash? Or you pull out the card. I'll just put it on the card, you say casually. That small beep sound when the payment goes through, it feels amazing, almost like magic. The money didn't leave your pocket immediately. You still got your coffee. No stress, no hesitation, just convenience. And that's how it begins. At first it's small, completely harmless. Another coffee the next day, some snacks from a nearby store, maybe a late night online order. Just a few books, something useful, something you needed. Then one day you see a gadget online, something you've wanted for a while. You pause. Should I? And then you think, it's fine, I'll pay it later. Click, purchased. And just like that, something changes. Each swipe brings a tiny thrill, a quiet sense of control. You start to feel more confident, more independent, like you've finally stepped into adulthood. You even tell yourself, relax, I've got this, I'll just pay it off at the end of the month. And you believe it, because at this stage, everything still feels under control. But here's the thing, no one really tells you. It doesn't happen all at once. It never does. It happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. Days turn into a week, then another. And without realizing it, those small purchases begin stacking up. Not in a scary way, just in a way that's easy to ignore, because when the first statement arrives, you glance at it quickly. It's not that much, you think. And then you see something interesting. Minimum payment. A small number. Very manageable. You smile again. See? Easy. You pay it. Done. No pressure, no problem. But what you don't realise is that this small decision, this one habit, is where the real story begins. Because paying the minimum feels responsible. But it quietly changes everything. Now you're not just spending, you're carrying something forward, and every time you swipe again, thinking, it's just a little, that balance starts growing behind the scenes. Not loudly, not aggressively, just steadily. Like filling a bucket with water while there's a tiny hole at the bottom. You keep pouring, thinking everything is fine. But something is slowly slipping away. Control. Another week passes. You go out again, coffee, snacks, maybe a quick meal. Nothing unusual, nothing extreme. But now there's a slight shift. You check your balance, and for a second, you hesitate. Wait, was it this high before? You quickly brush it off. It's fine, I'll handle it later. And that word, later, starts becoming your favourite escape. Later, I'll calculate everything. Later, I'll stop spending. Later, I'll fix it. But later has a funny way of arriving sooner than expected. By the end of the month, the excitement is still there, but it's mixed with something new. A tiny, uncomfortable feeling. Not fear, just awareness. You open your next statement more carefully this time. The number is higher, noticeably higher. Now you start remembering things. That coffee, those snacks, that gadget. Individually, they felt small, but together, they tell a different story. And then you notice something else. Interest. At first it seems small, almost irrelevant. A few extra numbers. But interest is patient. It doesn't rush. It grows quietly, waiting for you to ignore it. You think, it's fine, I'll just pay the minimum again. And you do, because again, it feels manageable. But what you don't see is what's happening underneath. Most of your payment doesn't reduce your actual debt. It feeds the interest. So while you feel like you're making progress, you're barely moving. And sometimes you're not moving at all. Days go by, and now something else begins. Notifications, small alerts. Nothing too alarming at first. Payment due soon. Balance update. Interest applied. You see them, and you swipe them away. Because you don't want to deal with it right now. You're busy, you'll handle it later. But those small alerts, they're not just reminders, they're warnings. And deep down, you know it. Still, you keep going. Another swipe, another just this once. Another promise to yourself. And slowly the feeling changes again. What once felt exciting now feels slightly heavy. You don't enjoy spending the same way anymore. There's always a thought in the back of your mind. How much is it now? Can I still manage this? Even simple things like buying coffee don't feel as carefree. You start thinking twice, sometimes even 3 times. But the habit? It's still there because habits don't disappear overnight. They stay until something forces them to change. And right now, that moment is getting closer. Much closer than you think. Because what started as freedom is slowly turning into something else. Something heavier. Something harder to ignore. And in the next part of this story, you're going to see exactly how small choices can turn into a situation that feels almost impossible to escape. And the moment when reality hits harder than expected. So stay with me. Because the next chapter might just change the way you look at money forever. So now, things are starting to feel different. That excitement you once felt every time you used your card, it's not completely gone, but it's weaker now, replaced by a quiet tension that follows you around. You still make the minimum payments every month. On paper, it looks like you're doing everything right. The bank isn't calling you irresponsible. You're not missing payments. But something doesn't feel right, because every time the statement arrives, you notice the same thing. The number isn't going down, in fact, it's going up. At first you try to ignore it. Maybe I spent a little more this month. But then it happens again the next month, and the next. Now you start paying closer attention. You sit down one evening, open your statement, and actually read it line by line. And that's when it hits you. Most of what you've been paying isn't even touching the real debt. It's going to interest. That small amount you ignored before, it's no longer small. It's growing, quietly, consistently. And now for the first time, you feel something stronger than worry. You feel trapped. You try to adjust. You tell yourself, okay, no more unnecessary spending. But life doesn't pause just because you made a decision. A friend invites you out. You hesitate, then go anyway. I deserve a break, you tell yourself. Swipe another small expense. Then something unexpected happens. Maybe it's a bill. Maybe something breaks at home. Maybe you just didn't plan well that week. You use the card again. And again. Now it's not just about convenience anymore. It's becoming a backup plan. And that's when things start accelerating. The next statement arrives. This time, it's worse. There are new charges you didn't expect. Late fee, interest charge, adjustment. Your heart sinks a little. Wait, how did this happen? You remember making the payment, but maybe it was a little late. Maybe it processed a day after the due date. Maybe you didn't realize the timing mattered that much. But the system doesn't care about maybe. It just adds the fee. And just like that, your balance jumps again. Now frustration starts building. You were trying. You weren't being reckless. But the numbers don't reflect your effort. They reflect the system. And right now the system is winning. Days go by and something else changes. Your relationship with money. You stop enjoying spending. Even basic purchases feel heavy. You walk into a store, pick something up, and put it back. Not because you don't want it, but because you're thinking about your balance. You check your phone more often now. Bank app, credit limit, available balance. It becomes a habit, almost an obsession. And then come the calls. At first they're polite, friendly reminders. Hello, this is just a reminder about your payment. You tell yourself you'll handle it later, but later keeps moving, and the calls keep coming. You start ignoring unknown numbers, silencing your phone, because every ring feels like pressure. Every notification feels like judgment. Even though no one is yelling at you, it still feels overwhelming. Now it's not just financial stress, it's mental. It follows you everywhere. When you're trying to sleep, when you're eating, even when you're with friends, you smile, you talk, you act normal. But in the background, there's always that thought. That number. It doesn't leave you alone, and the longer you avoid it, the bigger it feels. Until one day, you can't ignore it anymore. You're sitting alone, maybe at your table, maybe on your bed. Your phone is in your hand. You open your banking app, and you really look at it. Not quickly, not casually, properly. The balance is higher than you expected, higher than you ever imagined it would reach. And suddenly, everything becomes clear. Every coffee, every just this once, every minimum payment, every delay, it all adds up. Right here, in this moment. And for a second, you feel panic. How am I going to fix this? Your mind starts racing. Maybe I can cut all expenses. Maybe I can pay more next month. Maybe. But deep down, you know, this isn't something you can fix later. This needs action now. And that realization, it's heavy. But it's also important, because this is the moment where everything changes. You take a deep breath. Your hands feel slightly tense. You scroll, find the bank's number, and just stare at it. Calling means admitting something. Admitting that you're not in control anymore. Admitting that you need help. And that's not easy. Your mind starts fighting back. Not today. I'll call tomorrow. It's fine. But then you think about the sleepless nights, the stress, the constant pressure, and something inside you shifts. Enough is enough. You press the call button. The phone rings. Once, twice. Your heart is beating faster now. You almost hang up. But you don't. Someone answers. A calm, professional voice. And for a moment, you don't know what to say. Then finally you speak. I'm having trouble with my payments. It's simple, but it's honest. And something unexpected happens. The person on the other side doesn't judge you. They listen. They understand. They explain. Options, payment plans, possibilities, ways to reduce the pressure. It's not magic. It doesn't erase your debt instantly, but it does something powerful. It gives you direction. For the first time in a long while, you don't feel stuck. You feel slightly in control again. You ask questions. You listen carefully. You take notes. And slowly that heavy feeling in your chest begins to ease, because now you're not avoiding the problem. You're facing it. And that changes everything. The next few months aren't easy. You adjust your lifestyle. You track your spending. You think before every purchase. Sometimes you say no to things you used to say yes to. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. But it's also empowering. Because now every decision has intention. You're not reacting anymore. You're choosing. You build discipline, step by step. You create a plan, and you stick to it. Some days are harder than others. Some moments test your patience. But you keep going, because now you understand something you didn't before. Freedom isn't about spending without thinking. It's about control. Real control. And then, one day, it happens. You open your account, and for a second, you don't believe it. The balance is zero. No pending amount, no growing number, no pressure. Just zero. You stare at the screen, and slowly, you smile. Not the same smile from the first day you got the card. This one is different, stronger, wiser, because this time, it's real. You didn't just spend, you learned. You didn't just struggle, you grew. And now you understand something most people learn too late. Credit cards are not the problem. Lack of awareness is. Avoidance is. Undisciplined habits are. But when you face things, when you take control, everything changes. And that's the real lesson of this story. So next time you hold your card, remember this journey. Because it's not just about money, it's about choices. It's about responsibility. It's about facing reality, even when it's uncomfortable. And now I've got a question for you. If you were in this situation, At what point would you have acted differently? Think about it, because in the next video, we're going to test how much you really understood. And trust me, some of those questions might surprise you.